Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today we're looking at what shadows are in your life that can now be brought into the light. Now, when I talk about shadows, I'm not just talking about the sort of, kind of more negative or difficult or hidden parts of our personality, though some of that may come up with this. So a bit of a trigger warning straight up front when you're doing a topic like this. Some, fairly challenging issues could come up. I always film my introductions before I do the reading, so I don't know whether they will or won't. But I'm not just talking about that. I think sometimes shadow is in fact a strength that we suppress for various reasons, or it just might be something that we are, an inner knowing we have that is about to come up, but we haven't, for whatever reason, brought it up. So the concept of moving shadows into light for me is sort of shining that light on that and turning a shadow or a challenge into a strength. So that's what we're looking at today. And it was inspired by me just buying a very beautiful deck called the Earth, Moon and Shadow deck. You can see that there. Now, as always, I've got the connection down in my description box for those who watch my channel and like to get the decks that I get, because I know there's some of you out there that do sometimes follow up on decks that I get. I think this was a Kickstarter. I missed it as a Kickstarter. I was lucky enough to get a copy via the Etsy store of the creator. I think just recently she sold out. Because that's what it looked like when I went to get the link to put it in my description box. But hopefully she may restock. So if you are interested in the deck, I'd suggest sort of using the link to go to the shop and favoriting the shop and or contacting the creator. It's a very, very beautiful deck. And anybody who's interested in both shadow work and, as I say, that kind of developmental thing of turning shadow into light, this is a very powerful deck. So that was the inspiration for this topic. The other thing too, I want to mention up front for anybody again who's sort of interested in the decks I use, I'm also using a new tarot deck that I got from Rockpool Publishing called the Squid Marseille Tarot. Now, the reason I'm using that is that I have found the Marseille Tarot, the Marseille system, although I tend to read all systems fairly similarly, and I go by what I get intuitively, I do find that Marseille decks seem to be quite blunt. That's sort of the sense I get about it. So I think that fits with really looking at shadow work and really bringing things to the surface. But what I like about this particular Marseille deck, and you'll see it when I use it, is that it uses pastel colours and quite gentle imagery. And to me, that's a beautiful balance for exactly what I'm trying to do here, which is be clear about what the shadows are, but also give a softness and a gentleness to bringing it into the light. So that's just for those who like the reasoning, like to know why I've chosen particular decks. And we will use other oracle decks and so forth as we go through. Now, as always, we have to look at the choice. So I'm just putting down the numbers. Of course, you can go to more than one reading. What we have here to help with the choice is that I shuffled and asked Spirit to give me for each pile one of three. There are two others under this. I don't know what they are, cards from this deck. We're going to look at three potential shadow areas. And so I'll either look at them individually if they feel very different, or I'll see the connections if they feel connected. And what we'll do is we'll look at those to start with, and then we're going to use the tarot to look into what more about it and how you bring this to the light, and then use some oracle cards. So this will be one of them, so that may help you choose. So pile one has the snow moon, and it talks about rest, recovery and planning. So there's something here, I think, where it's what could emerge from the shadows of rest and what you could plan, what you could take forward with that. For pile number two, we have the summer fire. This is about passion, creativity and desire. Now, this is a very good example of how this deck deals with very deep issues, but it also deals with coming into the light. So this, again, feels to me like this may be a reading for those who feel that some shadow work that they've done is now going to translate into something creative. And for pile number three, we have inner guardian, which is about protection, defense and refuge. So this may be picking up those who feel there's a shadow energy that's coming towards them. Now that's going to be part of these readings, I think, because that's what I'm getting from these cards. But as I say, there's two other cards, and we'll see whether things are connected or separate. So with that much, and none of that might be why you choose. You might go to a particular number. You may just want to pause the video and contemplate. But when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, as always, I've got the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile one, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the snow moon, and I've actually put it in the center there because it was the card that might have drawn you here, but also it actually looks sequential to me. This looks like this is a sequential same issue or set of issues that we're looking at here. And I do think, I said when I looked at this, rest, recovery, planning, this could be for a group that have been doing quite a bit of shadow work and looking at some things that they were trying to heal. And I think this is being confirmed by the other cards here. Because the snow moon, as I said, is about rest, recovery and planning. What I feel comes before it in terms of logic is one of the two other cards, which is the cold moon. And this is about stillness, abundance, that can be developed through withdrawing. So there is a sense, if we have the cold moon here, this is a card that is about withdrawing within to work through that which I guess is not serving you, that which is difficult, that which has made you feel cold within. It is not a time for starting new projects. That comes later. But I feel this for most of you is something you've been going through. You're near the end of this. This is why this one came up as the main thing. I think that most have come here, if you've come to the right reading, you've been working on something and has caused you to sort of go within and to not feel ready to take something out in the world or not feel ready to show yourself as healed. There's a real sense of almost, it feels like the hermit to me, this card. So I think there's been a preparatory time that you've been going through or you are near the end of. So we will have a look with a bit more about that and advice to bring it into the light with the tarot about how you take the next step. The snow moon, in fact, is a fairly gentle step after it. It's actually kind of recovering from what you've done here. And it says literally coming in from the cold so you can plan your next step. And then that leads to the hatchling where you have innocence, inner child, and curiosity. This is the new thing coming through, but there is something, this is a deep wounding. I do think that, or a deep issue that goes back maybe to childhood, patterns from childhood, or something that your inner child wants, but you've had the wisdom to withdraw and really look at it, really excavate it, then kind of allow yourself a recovery phase from that, and then you can really start to sort of see what it would mean to heal the inner child if it's necessary or to hatch the new thing into the world. For some of you, this may literally be a process of creativity. So it may be that a lot of creative people create out of their pain or out of their shadow, to be honest. And this is a very good example of what I mean about the fact that shadow is not necessarily always a negative thing. They will go within the feeling in depth, really allow it to almost overwhelm them. Then they recover from that process so that they can then create it in the world. And it's a process of healing in and of itself. But for others, this is something I think, you could have been doing very deep sort of meditative work, shamanic work, sort of trauma work, anything like that is possible with the cold moon. I do feel that most of you are near the end of that. So that's what we're going to be looking at, is like how you transition to then recovering from that so that you're ready. But I think whatever this is connected. And I think you people are very acquainted with the shadow and you understand the process that actually allows it to hatch into something that is beautiful again. There's also with the sense of innocence about this, I feel like for some of you that is literally what you're processing. I feel like for some of you, you've been going through something where it was almost a loss of innocence. Like you had a belief in something and then the world has been somewhat cold and not accepting or accommodating to what you believed, or people have betrayed you or something like that. But you do know, you do have the wisdom to really look at it. You don't try and rationalize it away or stick your head in the sand and hope that everything returns to normal. You look into it, you then recover, and then it's like you can again have that sense of not naivety at all, in fact, because there's wisdom associated with it, but innocence, like being happy to move forward. So as I say, I think this is sequential. And I think most of you are probably near the end of this process, but you may go, okay, I'm there. But then that may be saying that there is something in this that is still worth excavating to fully heal your inner child. So we're going to use the tarot, as I say, and we're going to use it for each of these cards. And in fact, I think to make this easy to read, I'm just going to put it in that order. So what I'm firstly going to do is I'm going to ask around the snow moon. So this, around the cold moon. We'll put it in the order that I think it's going. Sorry. I'm going to ask a little bit more about the issue. What is the shadow issue we're dealing with? And then I'm going to ask Spirit for some advice about the next steps bringing it into the light. So firstly, what a little bit more detail about what is this thing that put you in the cold moon phase that made you have to withdraw? Three of Batons or Three of Wands reversed, Nine of Cups, Six of Coins reversed, the World reversed. Okay. Whatever this is unfinished, and that makes sense because this is the first thing. You know it's unfinished. It may be something that you tried to create, I think, or bring into the world, but you were not in alignment with others around it. It's very dear to you, though, with the Nine of Cups. Whatever this is very dear to you. It's part of your wish. And I think the thing that has made you withdraw is you felt that you were dealing with people where there was an equality, but for some reason that wasn't the case. It was a mistake to think that. Not necessarily because the people meant ill or anything, but I think that there is a sense where your dream was not in alignment with that of your peers in some way. But it is saying your dream is meant to be reborn down here because it's unfinished. And you know it's unfinished. But it feels like the whole process of having to go within was because you would need to be more on your own, standing on your own. And with the Six of Coins reverse, it's like it's not only that it's not kind of peers that you do this with, because as I say, you're either ahead of or separate to what many of your peers would be thinking. It's also, I feel like it's saying also the Six of Coins upright, which is the benefactor is not the way either. This is your journey. This is very key to you. And it goes deep with the World reversed and with the hatchling, this inner child energy. This is about your life path. And it's a very key thing. But as I say, I think you just felt out of step, and I think it surprised you. It probably hurt you. So what would Spirit advise to come out of that energy, to get to this next step where you can start to recover? Four of Cups reversed, Two of Swords, King of Batons or King of Wands reversed, Page of Swords. Okay. So there's an emotional block. It's associated with wanting to have, I think, others who are on the same page as you. But your dream is your dream, and it's only you can decide about it. So I feel like some of this is saying that you may have been looking for the approval or validation of others. This is not unusual. We all do to some degree. But in this situation, Spirit is saying that's not necessary. It's actually a block to you. It's important to come out of that emotional block of looking for the harmony with others to make the decision yourself because it's your decision. There was someone or something associated with this that maybe had a bit too much control over it because you wanted that connection with others. This could have been a boss. It could have been a friend who's got a fairly big ego. There's somebody, and that is a problem. It's like there was too much. Could even be, a parental figure, given we have the inner child down here. This could be the father. It doesn't have to be the father. It doesn't have to be gender-based. But there's somebody, and it's interesting because what this is telling me, what Spirit is saying, is that this person was not your superior, but they wanted you to think they were. They were more like an equal, and some of this had to do with an ego battle. This is why you have to move past the block. Sometimes you have to go, this is my thing, and then you move forward with your idea. And you build your idea, and it is an idea. There's something about, it's very emotionally important to you, but it's an idea. It's a message that you have. It's a way of communicating, something like that. For some, I'm getting this is connected to online stuff, social media sort of issues, like kind of cliques within that. But there is a message that you can bring forward, and understanding the message, your choice on your message, not fitting in with others. That's what it's saying. So we're going to go through each of them in terms of tarot, then we're going to look at some other information with oracle cards. So then let's say, okay, if you have realized here that there is something that is intrinsically your message that you maybe had tried to get other people to go along with, and there was pushback and ego stuff, or you felt that, you'd found your group and then that wasn't the case. Now you're kind of realizing, and this is why you withdrew, that this is not a crowdsourcing type of thing. This is you. Then we come to the snow moon, where you rest, recover, and you start to plan. So let's see, what is some of the shadow energy around that for you at this point in time? Pile 1. 5 of coins, the high priestess, the moon, justice. Wow, okay. There's a lot going on once you get into this phase. And I think for many of you might have already crossed over into this phase, so this might be more background. First thing is that it is a bit lonely. And you need to sort of recover and be comfortable with the fact that it's a bit lonely. This is very much an internal journey. It's very spiritual. It's very downloaded, actually. There's something very electric about this energy. If you let this sort of period of time of planning to like let the ideas flow, there's downloads coming to you. And it's interesting, we've got the moon here, the moon. I do feel for many of you that the cycles of the moon are very important. Pay attention to that. That will give you almost a kind of if you're planning, almost a time frame for when it is good to do new things, when it is good to reflect, when it's good to withdraw again, because there's going to be a process, because this is a bit of a long haul thing. This is a very important thing to your life path. So this is the thing. This is where your shadow is powerful. Your shadow around this, what you've realized, is to bring you to your understanding of your vision, and therefore to bring something into balance and make something more just. Some of you may literally have had something stolen from you, in terms of an idea or something like that. There is really what is the right thing, and I just think it's out of step with some other people that you would have thought were connected with you. But the more that you go within, the shadow is actually much more a thing about what is sort of hidden, what is in the light of the moon, what you psychically get. That's this planning phase. So let's see what Spirit's advice is during this for you. The King of Cups, Temperance reversed, Magician reversed, 9 of Wands. Okay, all right. So what this is saying is that focusing on your healing is the main thing to do in this phase. With the King of Cups. King of Cups is the healer. It's also saying that you're very empathic. This may be one of the things that's drawn you into this. You tend to get drawn into other people's energy. But it's saying that's what imbalances you. And if you can contemplate that and understand that, then that helps break this issue, because there's still, some of these people are still around, I think. I think we're getting this King of Batons reverse, the Magician reverse. There's someone who's quite manipulative around this. Now, whether that, with the inner child, it could be something from childhood. And again, sometimes these things are not knowing, but I feel for most of you with the King of Batons reverse, and then we also get the Magician in the same line, and then the Moon, which sort of feels like what's hidden. There's somebody or something that you can't really trust, and this is something you need to be aware of, because you have a tendency to see the good in people, but not everybody's as balanced as you. It's also saying you're closer to the healing and the closer to being able to complete this thing than you realize. There's just somebody who's kind of telling you no, or there's a group of people that are telling you no. But remember, your High Priestess is here, and High Priest upright will gazump a Magician reverse as long as you realize that's going on. So then if we get to the sort of shadow coming into the light around healing the inner child and bringing this thing into being, this message into being, whatever it is, and getting back to that sort of sense that you can move forward with confidence, that you're not in a dark forest all the time. You're actually in sort of like there's light and colour and opportunity. Let's see a little bit more about that. Queen of Batons, the Hermit reversed, the Page of Cups reversed, the Ace of Batons reversed. Okay, what this is saying around the shadow about being ready to hatch this. Once you have gone through the recovery and the healing, you'll have a very strong sense of yourself. That's good. That's really what you should be focusing on at the moment, and that's why time alone is really, really important. So you know you have everything that you need. Then you can come back out into the world. So this is showing the strengthening from the shadow. The shadow and the going within allows you to really know who you are compared to whatever this group thing was, or these other people things was. But it is saying that there's the healing, and then there's the curiosity aspect of this, really. There's the what do you want to do now? Because whatever this was is ultimately your message. But I think it's saying once you've gone through all this and you've made it more truly yours, you've then got to work out how you want it to feel and what you want it to to look like almost, because we've got the Ace of Batons reverse here. This is a blessing, but it's reverse. So there's a creative energy, but it isn't. This is really at its early stages. And with the Page of Cups reverse, it's saying now you need to work out what you want it to feel like, because the internal process of the shadow here was what you felt like. Now it needs to be, what is the message? But you don't do that till you've healed. But at that point, this is the work you need to do, because you're meant to sort of come out with this thing in the world then in some form. And you are feeling stronger to do it. But a lot of this is focusing on your internal healing from whatever this disappointment or even betrayal, as I say, for some of you was. Now you have to kind of, this is the work, and being curious, being sort of almost innocent. What would you want it to look and feel like? So what's Spirit's advice to you on that? The Lovers, the Five of Batons reversed, the Ten of Swords, the Fool reversed. Oh, that's really interesting. We've got like the Fool to the World, and they're both reversed. So this is the unfinished business. This is the getting of wisdom. So what this is saying is that this whole process is about the getting of wisdom. If you had, I think what it's saying overall is, if you had gone forward with whatever this was, with all these other people, it would not have worked, or it would not have been all that it could have been, because of the competition going on, the fact that you were too connected to what other people thought. So this process was the getting of wisdom for you, and understanding that and appreciating that is really helpful. Then the drama is out of it. It's less about, I feel really disappointed that other people didn't go with my idea, or other people didn't get it, or whatever. And it's much more about, you know what, I've learned a lot from this. And I'm going forward with that sense of innocence, but also with wisdom. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It is saying, and this is why it's important for you to work out what you want now, is that there will be people you can connect with. And it won't be as fraught at this point, because you know what you're doing and you know what to look out for. You know what to look out for in terms of people not to trust in this situation. And whether this is a love relationship, whether it's a creative thing, whether it's a career thing, whether it could be anything. But I think for most of you, it's less likely to be a relationship. If it's a relationship, then other people got involved and told you what you should do and so forth. But I think for most, this is more like an idea or a message or whatever. But this is saying that concentrate on then making the relationships that are not conflict-based, because you have the wisdom now to do it. So what it's saying is, and it's picking up what I felt about this overall, is that you are coming from some big disappointment, something that was really harsh, something that was really unfair, like it was really unfair with justice there, in the second row. But nevertheless, it serves you as wisdom to move forward with a more self-actualized and realized thing. So we just want to get a little bit more information on each of those things from some other oracles. So we're going to look at the Stories Oracle for a question to ask in relation to each stage. We're going to look at the Celestial Bodies deck to get either an astrology or numerology piece of advice, and we're going to use the Aha deck for breakthrough understanding. So firstly, the question to ask about this process, that the painful thing itself, and how to move out of that. We have the constellation of Gemini. It says, what if judgment is just unfulfilled potential being mirrored back at me? Yeah, there's something about the judgment of others. And there is a lot of potential involved in this, and this will bring you the wisdom. But the judgment of others has not been fair. The astrology or numerology piece of advice for that phase. Lunar eclipse, yeah. It's all this moon stuff. There's a lot of emotion around this. There's emotion. This person or people that did this were manipulative, and they did it with emotion. But this is, you've got to get back to your emotional core. This is why the moon is really coming up so strongly, because it was eclipsed in this. Other people's judgment was eclipsed. So it's just really saying, yes, and it had an emotional impact. So the aha moment for you around this early stage is, well, that's certainly suggesting healing. And it also emphasizes Mercury, because this is Mercury's caduceus. So the healing energy, it's interesting because we have, in terms of the advice, we have the Page of Swords, which is the communication, one of the main communication cards. It's saying that thinking about the judgments that have come to you and how you responded internally and what you communicate and what you want to communicate next takes you out of this eclipse energy. You actually are very, very articulate and very clever. And so you can get past this. Gemini is suggesting a similar thing. There's something about communication with this. It's like it's an idea, it's a philosophy, it's a creative project that's very verbal in some way. Something like that is involved in this. And part of the healing is in you articulating the truth. But it is over a pattern of time to when you're ready to do it. But the judgments of others, it's saying it a number of times, have been the issue. So then what question to ask in this phase where you're starting to kind of come in from the cold and you're starting to sort of like plan for what you want to do? The question comes from the constellation of Cetus. What if you could see the world through the eyes of your enemy? Yeah, this is understanding. This Magician reversed. Seriously, if you've come to the right reading, then there is someone who, whether knowingly or not, has had a really unfair impact on this, judgment, unfair, all of that kind of thing. And for some of you, because of the inner child energy here, it could be sort of someone in your family. But if you understand them and what they're doing, you can plan to move around it and bring the better people in. So that's a kind of a confirmation again about that. The astrology or numerology energy that Spirit wants you to contemplate while you're planning is the third house again. This is all about communication. This is all about communication. You are actually far more powerful in terms of communication than any of these people, but because you sort of like have been looking for sort of like collaboration and camaraderie, you might have given them too much power. You need to take that back. You need to understand though where they're coming from so that you can protect yourself. An aha energy around this for you. $77 is a number. That's very powerful spiritually. It's also the last card in this deck. So this is about eternity and infinite possibility. So I think that this is saying, as I say, there's something very powerful and there's a very powerful message you have to bring out. That's being said over and over. I think that this is saying that you need to understand the people that were holding you back because what you have is very, very precious. And that they probably, on one level or another, know that, and that's why they were trying to hold you back. So you need to understand that, in a sense, the judgments that have come to you and the issues that have come to you tell you the strength of what you're doing, not the opposite. But you do need to kind of understand that not everybody is a good actor. That may be a difficult thing to see. This could be people who are quite close to you. They may not even mean harm, but there is a jealousy operating here. And there is a kind of trying to keep you in your place energy operating here. What you are trying to bring in is part of the all, part of the infinite. So trust in that. And it brings you back to that sort of innocent sort of thing that, actually there is something really here. So when you're in this phase and you're starting to sort of move forward and be curious again and explorative again and work out what you want to say and do, the question that you should ask is, from the constellation Crooks, what if we are not measured by what happens to us, but rather by how we respond to it? Yeah, this is all a learning, the getting of wisdom. That's what this is about. Let's see what astrology or numerology is pertinent to this stage. 5, yeah, five of batons coming out of the conflict energy. 5 is always a kind of conflict energy, but it's telling you it's minor. Compared to what you're doing, this was minor. You start to get a form of perspective. So then the aha energy for you at that point when you're really starting to explore things and you've gone through the healing. 51, so 6, and then 5, 6, you see a kind of a numerological movement forward. But the really interesting thing about this is actually the card that represents shadow. And it's around acknowledging that we might have attracted, people in that created the shadow. So it's sort of a culmination of understanding this. So understanding this shadow, understanding, and the shadow that was being directed towards you makes you understand the conflict, which then gives you the wisdom to move forward. So it's very encouraging, actually. This really says you're so close, that you have been doing what you need to do. It's just now being a little less forgiving. And that doesn't mean you have to like throw away these friendships or whatever, but you need to put them in a context and understand what's going on, because it's something you have to bring forward is very precious. So to close out, I just want to draw you a card from the Lantern Oracle as a sense of the light moving forward out of the shadow. Repair. Making amends rather than fun times reveals relationships' true constitution. I think this is saying, I think what it's overall saying is that there are some people that did not mean well, even if it was conscious or unconscious. But part of this process is repairing yourself, and then you will know, because it was saying that there are some good relationships. So there may even be some that can be repaired. When you speak more of your truth and you stand in that, and you don't kind of tolerate the judgment, you may find some people, those that had goodwill but just were very bit closed-minded, open up and can be connected to you, but it's worked. What can you repair, and what maybe you can't repair but you need to protect yourself from? So this is the process for you. It's very much a kind of response to the views of others, and then flowering and developing who you are coming out of it. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 1. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Summer Fire, and as I said, this is about passion, creativity, desire. So I had a sense that people in this reading, they're sort of like having already worked out that there's something about the shadow that creates something within. What's interesting, and this is the second reading that I've done of the 3, and I think this may prove to be the case for each, is I think that Spirit's very clever here, and what they have actually designed in the 3 cards is a sequence of events. So if this was the case for pile number 1, I think it's going to be the case here. I think we're looking at a process. So when I put in the intent of this, from the shadow into the light, that's pretty much exactly what we would do if we put it in a particular order. So the order, I think, is 1, 2, 3. And the reason that I say that is that we start with the scavenger. This is desperation, scarcity, wanting. This is your FOMO type of card, really. This is the sense where we feel we need more, we want to keep up with people. It's hard for us to ground what would be true value when it's sort of like we're bombarded with advertisements and with Instagram things with people saying this is the perfect life, all of that kind of stuff. So this is saying there's an energy around you at the moment, and I think you are highly creative people, so it's probably in some form of creative expression. Or it could be around relationships as well. Like, I want a relationship. It's not, I've met somebody that I really feel drawn to, and so therefore I want the relationships. Kind of like, oh no, I must have a relationship. I'm falling behind everybody. There's that kind of energy. There's something going on here, which is the shadow to look at, because within that and underneath that is sort of the tendrils of creativity and ambition. And as I say, the shadow shows us something that can be turned to a strength, but we need to understand what's driving us almost unconsciously. When that is understood, we move to the wolf moon, which is about restoration, incubation, and growth. So this is a moon cycle period where we understand there is something that needs to be almost given time to grow. So there's a sense of urgency here that moves to a sense of an understanding that what is of value will take time to grow. And going through that energy and it's a prioritization. It's what really matters and what are you prepared to put the energy into. That then reaches to the Summer Fire, passion, creativity, and desire. And this is where we start to actually create what we want. So this is a pretty clear process. It's saying your shadow at the moment is that you have lots of ambition, lots of desires, nothing wrong with that. But while it drives you without any form of discrimination about what you would want, and I mean positive discrimination there, not anything negative, a kind of discernment may be a better word, then you're always on a treadmill. And you're never really achieving what you want to achieve. But if you prioritize and then you go, okay, what would I want to give the time to? What am I prepared to really dedicate myself to? Then the creative energy comes through. So what I feel is, as I say, it goes in that order. So I'm going to start and we're going to go through each one by one. And we're going to look with tarot. And what we're going to ask with tarot is, firstly, a little bit more about the shadow driving it, and then what Spirit is saying about how to turn that into the light. And then we're going to use some other oracles to get a bit more information of each stage as well. So this stage of like really wanting something or wanting a number of things, or not even really knowing what you want, what can Spirit tell us about that? 7 of Cups. Oh, what a perfect card as the first one out. King of Coins. Ten of Swords, Knight of Swords. Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, that perfectly describes this energy. Seven of Cups. I mean, Seven of Cups can be a wonderful card. It can be the dream and everything, but it can also be there's so many things. Which do you actually want? So I think this is right from the outset saying that's what's happening with you. That and wanting everything in a hurry. There's a drama around what you want to create and do for yourself. Now, this may be coming from, keeping up with friends. It could be what your family expects of you. It could be any number of things. But the energy here is that you're almost spoilt for choice, and you're kind of just running into things and running after things without thinking it through. The Knight of Swords and the Knight of Wands are both the fastest knights in the pack, and they can act before thinking. Even the Knight of Swords. I mean, Swords is all about thinking, but it's in a hurry. It's electric. And it's interesting because you've got the Ten of Swords, so there's a sense of there's a lot of drama around this. And it's around the material things in life, definitely. Your career, your status, the money that you have, what you would commit to, all of those things. And there's lots of choices and so forth. So this is very much the kind of, I want to be getting all the likes on social media. It's the FOMO energy that's definitely there. But the core of this, what it's saying is that you have a lot of options. It's trying to decide where to put the energy. What it makes me think of as well is that I've known people in the past who have multi-talents, and that sounds like a wonderful thing to have, but it's also sometimes a difficult thing to have. I think I've told the story before that one of my first managers when I started work was very brilliant, but he kind of got stuck in his career, and he said what happened to him when he was at school was that he went to the school counsellor and they said, well, you could do anything. And so then they gave him no advice at all. And he said, the trouble is I don't really know what to do now. And it had been a problem for him. So I think there is something here about understanding that there are a number of options for you, and they're real, but what are the ones that you really want? Not what are the ones that you feel you're just trying to keep up. So let's see how Spirit would advise to sort of come out of that sense of urgency or desperation so that you can bring your discernment into play. Page of Swords, Three of Batons reversed, Four of Batons reversed, Queen of Coins reversed. Okay, all right. So this is saying a lot of this is coming from the people that you're mixing with. Now, it's your response to it. I'm not sort of like giving you a kind of, a pass on this, because there is something about you really starting to understand where you want to put your skills and abilities and what really matters to you. But there's a lot here about competition and sort of like discord around people that you're with, people that you're working with, friends that you're with, family, whatever it is. It's more likely, I think, though, to be like working with or friends and family actually looking at this. So understanding a lot of this is driven by the people that you're communicating with. And a lot of it might be online. Like this could be very much a social media sort of thing. You might be very much like looking at being in social media, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what it is saying is it makes it hard for you to commit to anything, because it's kind of like there's always these little inner battles. So understanding a lot of this is in response to the competitive energy of other people rather than the drive of what you would really want to do. That's bringing all the drama into it. So then if you've understood that and you've gone, okay, I want to really start to articulate to myself what matters, what out of these things do I want? And you go into this incubation period. And let's look a little bit about the shadow energy that's around deciding what to really focus on and what to allow to grow. Given that you do have this kind of like, you feel like tick tock, the time's going really fast, but this is about slow growth. What is the shadow energy you'll deal with as you move into that phase? Two of Batons reversed, Three of Coins, Ace of Cups, the Star reversed. Okay, self-doubt's one of the things that's operating here. That's what's driving this actually. And I don't think you need to have it actually. I think you have a lot of talents, but because of this competitive environment you're in, it's making you self-doubt. And that's what you're not sure about your choice. You're not sure about your choice. Where do you have a foundation that you could build from? And you'd like to work with other people, but you're not around the people that you could work with. And there's something that really matters to your heart. I think you protect it. It's almost like the one thing that you're not chasing here is the thing that really matters to you and the thing that would really work. But you kind of lack the confidence. So some of this incubation period has to be going, what What would you really want to grow that matters to you? And just trusting in that rather than in, the timetables and the competition of others. So what advice does Spirit have for this? The Lovers reversed, the Eight of Coins, the Eight of Batons, the Page of Cups. Okay. For a start, Spirit's saying you do have whatever the ability is to do this. You doubt yourself, but you shouldn't. It's there. It's what's in your heart. That's the thing that actually is going to work the best. So really focusing on your heart, going from the Ace to the Page, understanding what you want to feel like out of this as opposed to this, because this feels like all the emotion is all around the competition and the speed and the keeping up and all that kind of thing. But if you go more to what really matters to you, what would that feel like if it worked? It's saying that there are some connections you need to sever. You have to do that because otherwise you're going to stay stuck in this energy. But it's saying you have the skills. It's saying it very, very clearly, and you can move forward when you realize that. And it could be, like even build your skills. If you're feeling a little bit unsure about this, and there's like a course or some sort of like, a mentor or a coach or whatever, by all means do that. But like sever the relationships that are putting you on the treadmill. Go towards those where you are, able to build your skills and able to move quickly, because you will move quickly towards this. You are actually very talented, but you've got caught on the measures of like competition with others rather than what you really wanted it to feel like. Then when you're sort of coming out of that sort of energy and you're coming into the summer fire, into the passion and creativity, what shadow, if any, is still remaining that you'll need to be aware of? Nine of Cups, Two of Swords, Knight of Cups, Six of Batons. Okay, this is interesting because this is what shadow or whatever energy. I mean, it's certainly saying that you progress very fast, so that's good. There is a side of you that almost fears success. It's like you kind of, at that moment when you could move forward and really connect and really be recognized and really have what you want, there's a point of indecision. I think one of the things that would really help you is, as I say, if you detach from this kind of like success being, like how many likes you had on social media or whatever it is, that's just an example, and what other people do in competition with each other, and you start to define what you want to feel like, is work out what is the next thing beyond that. Because it almost feels to me like without that kind of drive of the desperation, you wonder whether or not you'll be a one-hit wonder, for instance, and then that's it. And I don't think that's the case, but I think this has got something to do with the shadow that you're dealing with here. It's like, again, it's a bit like, say you're running a YouTube channel. It's like, how many subscribers you have, how many, likes, how many views or whatever. You get to a particular point and then it's like, well, am I going to just kind of level out and that's going to be it? Or am I, like, what's the next thing? Like it, and in a weird way, just going after those things kind of at least gives you a sense of momentum, whereas you've got to find the sense of momentum within yourself, because there's a lot of potential for you to do well, but in a weird way, you're ambivalent about it. So you need to also work that out, because that's got something to do with why you got caught in this thing as well. It's not just the sort of social pressure that we have now. It's something else about your ambivalence about success. So what advice can Spirit give you around this? Because you can do it. You are going to do it, but it's kind of like what's next, I feel. So Five of Coins, Justice, Four of Coins reversed, Ace of Coins. Okay. One of the things this could be saying, this is very specific, but I'm going to say it because it could be the case with some. Spirit may be saying here that when you really get the success and recognition, what may not come with that first step, and this might be why there's a sort of indecision, is that you may not see the material outcome immediately. With the Five of Coins and the Four of Coins reversed here, it's almost like there's a celebration and a breakthrough in what you wanted to do and how you wanted to be seen, but it hasn't translated into money yet. But there is the option. There's something new coming through. Yeah, and that's a contract, money, all that kind of thing. So there may be, for some of you, it may be one step to reach the sort of creative thing that you want to do and the recognition. The second step might be financial, but it's saying just understand that that's okay. Because the next thing, so this is why the next thing is important. The next thing is the thing that would potentially materially really work for you. So that's kind of specific. Beyond that, I would say in this general energy, this feels to me like coins, like money, like what is currency? And if the currency around all this is recognition, it's connection, it's communication, as I say, it's a very social media sort of feeling to this, then that should not be your focus. Your focus should be on the balance of moving forward, because you are going to build, but you'll be building what is balanced rather than kind of reactive. The old patterns need to be let go of. Okay, so let's get you some more information. So for each of these stages, I have 3 oracles that I want to use to give you a question, a astrology or numerology energy, and also an aha moment. So the question, firstly, for this sort of FOMO, I'm going to just call it FOMO, sort of fear of missing out period. What would Spirit like you to question yourself? We have the constellation of Corona Australis. We have, how could your life change if you stopped comparing it to someone else's? I love how Spirit works. There is definitely something there. I want you to hear that you actually have something very special and you have lots of talents. You don't need to do this, but I think, it's very much the zeitgeist that we live with. So I'm not giving you a hard time, but Spirit really wants you to think about that. So let's see the astrology energy. Taurus, yeah, the good life. And I think this is the key. Like Taurus is not as reactive to things like FOMO. I mean, like to some degree, like wants the good life, wants the good wine, the good, the good food, the good times or whatever. But Taurus can be a little bit stubborn, and I think a little bit of stubborn would be good, like slowing it down and grounding it would be good. And it could be, what is your good life, not what, you think it looks like on, as I say, Instagram or something like that. And that's just an example. It doesn't have to be that. But there's something here about, what would be good for you, not in comparison to everybody else. And an aha energy for you. 71, so that's 8. So there's some hard work associated with all of this. But the irony, this is about patience. And it's saying something wonderful is ahead, but it's going to take time. And then you're moving into this with the incubation period of what matters. So I always sympathise with anybody who's dealing with issues about patience, because as I often say, I'm not very patient. So I understand this energy, but this is the point. This is saying that when you understand the thing of real value is the thing that you're prepared to put the patience in, that has to do with the life you really want to create rather than how it is in comparison with others. That's a really big breakthrough for you that then allows you in this incubation period of letting something build. So the question to ask in that period, because you're still going to be carrying some of this energy into here, it's inevitable. So that you can last the distance, the question is from the constellation Equilus. How can you offer anything authentic to the world if you can't retreat inward? Sorry, I couldn't read the writing. Yeah, you have to be able to go within. You have to be able to go within and have the patience to go within. If you're always responding to the sort of social cues or whatever, or the competition, you're not going to be sort of offering what you really could offer. The astrology energy. Waning crescent moon. So the waning crescent moon is about letting go of things that didn't work and getting back to first principles. Yeah, so there's like so many toys. What's the one that you would really want to work with? Let go of the rest and go within, so that what you bring is of true value. The aha message for you in this stage of incubation. 73:10, yeah, that's sort of new beginnings, like after other things have ended. It's also all about resonance. You can sort of see the crystals are sort of like tuning into each other. For some of you, this could be about only from going within and working what matters to you, can you bring in the right person into your life, the right collaborators, whatever it might be. But otherwise, there is a deep resonance within. You will feel it within when you are building the thing that it truly is of value. Anything else, it's kind of, it won't have that sort of sense of aha, this is the thing. So look for what has real resonance to you, not as I say, the kind of response to the external environment. And then the question to ask when you're coming into the creative phase, and whereas I say you're a bit ambivalent about the success, so how you can deal with that. We have the constellation of crooks. What if we are not measured by what happens to us, but rather by how we respond to it? I think this might have come up for one of the other readings. So yeah, how are you responding to it? There's something here. There's something, and this is a process. You're going to create something out of all this, and then you're going to create something even again. Like so it's a bit of a process of growth and so forth, and it's so that you can do this on a cycle. But there's something here about the response to success. So it may well be saying that, you've got to go a bit gentler on yourself. The first thing to do is just focus on what has resonance, build that, bring it in, and then almost assess for yourself, what is your ambivalence here, and how do you go back into that for the next thing so that you don't go back to this point. Particularly, as I say, if that sense I have for some of you is right, that the first thing may not be as materially successful. You might go, oh, it could be very easy to get back into that energy. But if you go back into that energy, then you're starting to kind of work out that you're the navigator here rather than just responding to the external. The astrology or numerology around this. Mercury, communication, speed. You've got a very quick mind. So multi-talented. So, and there's a message that you can bring out, how you communicate things. It may also be saying that you can move through some of these blocks and get the kind of, as I say, contract or support that you need by your communication skills. The aha energy for you. Here's card number 27, another 10. Yeah, I think that this is saying that there's once you get out of this sort of rat race and you build one thing that's really resonant, then it's going to, in fact, start this cycle, and you're going to move in this space a lot. You're going to, rather than going back to this space. Action follows faith. You do need to have faith in yourself, and this is the first journey. Then I think you have to allow yourself to enjoy success in its real terms and build from that. So this is about understanding you being sovereign to what you do rather than responding to the cues of the external, and then it looks after itself. So to bring it all together, I just want to get you a card from the Lantern Oracle for some final light in bringing your shadows to the light. That's interesting. This came up for another of the readings too, but I'm going to put it out because that's what Spirit's chosen, repair. This is about working out what to repair. So again, there will be some relationships and connections through this that are worth having moving forward, that you can repair, that the competition, once you sort of define what you do and you're really true in yourself, it no longer has that impact. There's also, within this, I think, repairing your own sense of what success is. So that you allow yourself success, because it's sort of weird. I feel like you want it, but it's almost the things that you want most, that are most precious, you've sort of hidden away and you've got caught in this rat race. And then when you really start to step into who you truly are, there's almost a kind of like an ambivalence, as I say, that you have to move forward till you get used to this. So there's a repair process going on internally, but there could also be relationships that you can repair and get out of this cycle of competition. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 2. I hope it was helpful and you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the inner guardian. And as I said in the intro, that could sort of suggest with protection, defense, refuge, that you were dealing with something fairly serious. And this looks like it is the case. So I feel like I want to say trigger warning right at the beginning of this. It's interesting too, because the other two readings kind of had a sequence to them, whereas I feel that this isn't. I feel like this is two parts of a particular issue, and this is some support that you're getting from both an inner guardian and also kind of from your spirit team more generally. So the reason I say that is that thunder and lightning and poisons and toxins feel like two aspects, or like the thing that has triggered the issue and part of the sort of initial response to the issue. Then the inner guardian, as I say, becomes a support system that you create within yourself, I think, or a way of doing that, or connecting to your spirit team and so forth. Because thunder and lightning, painful realization, inner conflict. If you've come to the right reading, you have probably recently found out something that was painful, a betrayal, something wasn't what it appeared to be. This is almost like a tower energy. There's been a revelation. There's been something that has shaken you to your core. So part of the shadow around this is it's a shock. It's a shock to the system. And the immediate response for it with poisons and toxins, with fear, negative thoughts, self-loathing, is that you've blamed yourself. For some reason, you've blamed yourself. So I think that Spirit wants you to have a look at that, because that's probably not accurate. And we're going to get some more information about what's going on and see who else and other things that might be involved. But it's like it's the shock has kind of like weakened your internal defense system, and this is permeating you. You need to kind of understand this so that you can have the defense system that the inner guardian provides and find your way out, so that whatever this shock is something that this is almost like a process, like when you get a virus and your immune system eventually kicks in, and then after that it really can't hit you the same way again. So the way that you come out of the shadow of this is to understand that this is a process of immunizing you against something like this happening again. But one of the things, and this is why the inner guardian is important, is that just as in a viral response or an autoimmune response, the body can attack itself or appear, or the symptoms can feel like it's attacking itself. This is saying that you need to bring in your inner guardian that stops you from negative thinking and blaming yourself. So there seems to be something here where there's something that's shocked you or surprised you. And this is very specific. So if this doesn't resonate, I don't think this is your reading. So I just want to make that really clear. There's something that's been really shocking, really upsetting. And this is a process, as I say, of immunization. And this is what Spirit wants to talk to you about. Now, in all the other readings, I've put them in a sequence, but I don't think it's a sequence. So I'm actually going to sort of like just lay them out in a different way. And we're going to start with these two, and then we're going to look at how the inner guardian can help. So for each of these, and we're going to start with this because I do think this is the first, but these are almost happening at the same time. We're going to ask a little bit more about what this shock to the system was with tarot. Four of Swords reversed. Justice, yeah, there's an injustice associated with this. King of Coins. Three of Batons. For some of you, this may literally have been a legal matter in some way. You could have found yourself sort of like, you took on a job and it's turned out not to be what you thought it was, or the environment's incredibly toxic. It could be that you are in a legal battle. Somebody sort of, raised an issue with you, or you're going to have to go to battle for something. So there could be something very, very legal about it. But if not, this is sort of something where an issue around what is right and wrong has made you withdraw. And so the shadow is sort of like kind of trying to bring you out. Like this issue is trying to bring you out, but you've gone into that sort of shock and you aren't able to yet heal yourself. Like the Four of Swords upright can heal itself. It's a healing process. With it reversed, it's sort of like there's something really unfair or wrong. It's very material, I think. So I say about a job, about a contract, about, it could be anything. It could be, that you bought a house and then you found out that there are all these issues with it that hadn't shown up in any of the sort of inspections, for instance. Like there's a shock that's got a very material impact. It's really about something that was unfair. Like it's not your fault. And I think that's what Spirit wants you to hear first, particularly for this bit. But you might think you should have known better. You should have read the fine print, something like that. And it's put you in dispute with something or someone. So let's see what Spirit wants to say about understanding and going through this shock process. Like what's the advice to bring that up to the light? Two of Swords. Seven of Coins. Knight of Coins reversed. Queen of Swords reversed. Okay, all right. It's kind of tilting over to this right from the start. What it's saying is, there are still choices that you can make. You feel at the moment that something wrong's happened, and I think you feel done over or something like that. But there are still choices that you can make that can salvage this situation and turn what felt like a loss into a growth. So it's understanding that's the case. You're just in shock at the moment. It does mean you need to kind of recalibrate what your loyalties are in the process and how you want to do something. With the Knight of Coins reverse, you're going to have to take a different approach, particularly materially. But understanding you do that is really important, because you also have to understand when you're in conflict with others, you internalize it, you make it conflict with yourself. So Spirit wants you to understand that. This is why this is important, because you can do more than you think, but you've got to get off your own case about it. So then let's see a little bit about how you tend to give yourself a hard time. Because I think that you feel like, oh, I should have known better, all that kind of thing. But sometimes things just happen. And in this sort of situation, it could be someone was, just not honest. So, and we have to go with the information we have at the time. So it's sort of like not blaming yourself too much. And understanding, as I say, it is saying the situation is salvageable. It's not as bad as it appears. So let's sort of see how this shadow energy operates when you start to kind of attack yourself when something like this happens. 10 of coins, 8 of batons, Ace of swords reversed, Page of coins. Okay, this is telling you why, rather than saying more about it, because I think it's already said it right here with the Queen of Swords and that energy. This is you turning on yourself. You're used to being very good in the material world. And whatever this is, you're used to doing very, very well. This is why it's been a surprise. It's why it's been a shock. So, and you're used to sort of like taking this sort of skill and ability and moving forward, but something's got blocked and you feel like you've gone from being a king of coins back to a page of coins. You feel like you've moved backwards. So this is very much, there's something that's happened. It's got a very strong material aspect to it, possibly a legal aspect to it. And you're not the sort of person this would normally happen to. So you blame yourself. But I think that Spirit wants you to say, that's not right. And it's almost like if you turn that on its head and you go, well, actually it doesn't normally happen to me, so I shouldn't immediately blame myself. It's something about the circumstances that will help you. So what is Spirit's advice around that? Queen of coins. Strength. Yeah. 8 of cups. 5 of swords reversed. Okay, all right. So there's 2 things it's telling you. Number 1, it's saying, remember, this is your strength. So instead of thinking, well, I should have known better, think, well, 9 times out of 10, I do know better. Sometimes just something is not right, and you aren't really to blame. You get out of that and you remember that you have a strength. So you remember that you can fix it up. Rather than just being in shock and castigating yourself, you start to plan for what you need to do. There's something that you need to let go of. As I say, there's something you need to do differently, and you need to let go of the emotion around it. You're actually a really, really good business person. If this is around business or something, you're very, very good at that. But this shock to the system has made you go into an emotional tailspin. So this is why you need to let that go. You're not going to give up, and don't give up. Don't think all is lost. Even there was a clue in the fact that we had justice up right here. For all that something's gone on, in the end there was a clue right from the beginning that you can make this right. But you have to believe in yourself rather than blaming yourself. And remember your tenacity and your strength. It's sort of like there's an emotional response you need to clear out, which is then why the inner guardian is important, because as I say, it kind of connects to your spirit team and guardians on that level, but it's primarily the defensive thing within us to stop us from attacking ourselves unfairly. So let's just sort of see a bit about the shadow energy that the inner guardian is helping you with. 2 of batons reversed, the lovers reversed, the 9 of cups, the King of Swords reversed. Okay, so this adds another layer to this. For some of you, this could be about a love relationship rather than a business thing, and it could have been something that you were very committed to, could have been that you were married or you were thinking about doing something like that, and you've been betrayed. And you think, again, you should have known better. But again, you are able to create the thing that you want to create. So whether it's business or whether it's love, but it is possible with the lovers reversed for some of you, that's what's going on. But the lovers doesn't always have to be about romance either. Your inner guardian wants you to understand that this was an external thing. This was like someone else or some other people not being on the same path as you, or not being as honest as you, whatever it would be. So that understanding that you tend to think the best of people, but sometimes you shouldn't. That's really what it's saying. And that again, it's good to think the best of people as long as you don't turn everything inward on yourself afterwards if someone lets you down, because you've got to trust people, don't you? I mean, like, you have to, otherwise we wouldn't have any relationships. But I think, you know, it's that maxim of when people show you who they are, believe them. When that happens, that's when you need to sort of understand it's not you. You know, we all, life is just making decisions with imperfect information. We are all in that situation, so don't give yourself too much of a hard time. Let's see what Spirit is saying, your inner guardian is saying, to sort of bring all this to the light for you. The Chariot, the Empress reverse, the Three of Swords, the Hierophant. Okay, all right. For a start, whether this is business or a relationship or whatever, it's saying you are going to move forward to that which is meant to be yours, that which is your destiny, that which is your path. So just trust that, know that, like, that this thing has simply served to show that something wasn't right. And that's, you've just got to detach from that. It's not a source of nourishment. You need to separate from it, whether it's a relationship, you know, business deal, whatever it is. But you are still going to move forward because right is on your side, and this is part of it, like what you're doing and your skills using those will work really well for you. So it's like, understand that the only real thing that's necessary is to separate out from whatever this person, and I think it is a person, in whatever they've done. Then you can get back on your path. But if you sit and blame yourself for a long time, you're just going to wallow in it and you give them power that they shouldn't have. So what we're going to do is we're going to use 3 different oracles for each of these, in a sense, stages, but they're not stages in a sort of linear sense. They're more kind of aspects of the thing to get some other information. So firstly, we're going to have a question for each of them. Then we're going to have a astrology or numerology energy, and then we're going to have an aha breakthrough piece of information. So when we're talking about the shock, so we're going to start down here with the shock. What is the question that Spirit thinks you should ask? Capricornius, yeah, I think a lot of this is around business, powers of the world or something like that. As I say, it could be love relationships as well too, but there's a lot that's about that kind of energy. The question is, what if that magic you were looking for was in the work you were avoiding? So that's interesting. There might be a little bit of a clue here. It might be that it's saying that somewhere in whatever went wrong is actually a hint to what could go right, but it might be the thing you avoided. I think it comes down to, I think that you trust people a lot, and it was kind of like, I want to collaborate or whatever it might be. And in a way that might have been avoiding certain things and letting other people do certain things, or avoiding even signs that you saw. But the magic, see, the magic in you is the capacity to see it and the capacity to move it forward yourself. So reconfiguring that idea takes you away from where you're likely to have this sort of shock to the system again. The astrology or numerology energy around the shock to the system. 1, okay. Yeah, this is you, you know, like there's some sort of connection that was not the right connection. And like remembering your strength is what's important. The aha moment, or the aha energy for you is, this came up for one of the other ones, 73:10, sort of ending things, new beginnings. So like don't get stuck on this, just move forward. But this is about resonance. What is resonant? There's something within this shock that's meant to make you understand your strength, what is your pure message, and what is resonant to you. So in a weird way, it wasn't meant to happen, whatever this was. It's kind of like that thing if something happens for you rather than to you, but it feels like it's happening to you. I don't want to underestimate that. What's the question when there's a risk that you turn all this on yourself? Because this is saying understand what's true to you, but it's not saying what's true to you to blame yourself. It's so that you actually get the accelerated learning, the purest version of this, so that you don't go through that. You actually sort of like start to use this for yourself. So the question around dealing with this tendency to self-flagellate, pile 3. We have the constellation of Auriga. What will you do with today? Tomorrow is not guaranteed. I think this is just, again, to make you focus on action. Like, I think the shock to this, as I say, is this would not normally happen to you. You're usually very astute in whatever this is. And that's why you're kind of castigating yourself. But the reality, it's trying to tell you that some things were just not going to be guaranteed. and that's okay. What do you do now? Just the main thing to focus on is what you do now, not giving yourself a hard time. The astrology or numerology energy around this phase. Lunar eclipse, yeah, don't let your emotions take over. This is the Eight of Cups. The one risk you have and what can take you into that, instead of being action-oriented, you get into the emotion of it. It's going to slow you down. It's going to make it harder for you to come out of this and come out of the shock and the sort of feeling of kind of sick to your stomach about whatever this was. The aha moment for you. It's card number 39, so that's 12-3. That is about kind of connection, like the new foundations and so forth. It's an interesting imagery though, because it's moths around a flame. So it says moths are attracted to the light. So I think there's a message in there of go towards the light in terms of action, rather than the sort of like the shadow energy of a lunar eclipse. But it's also learn from this and be careful, because moths to a flame, of course, can sometimes get singed. So it's again, use it as a learning thing about how close to a light can you come and how much do you need to sort of stay separate as well. Then with your inner guardian, what would your inner guardian be asking you to consider? The constellation of Gemini. What if judgment is just unfulfilled potential being mirrored back at me? That came up in one of the other readings. So yeah, this is judgment in either case. If you're judging yourself too hard, then think about the potential that actually has underneath it. Because I think there's a very strong message here that because you are extremely good at something, you're going to give yourself a really hard time. But if you stop that judgment and you think, okay, 9 times out of 10, I wouldn't do that. What have I learned from this, and how do I become even better at what I do? This is when you get back on the chariot. This is when you start sort of really establishing yourself. So understand that. And if the shock was somebody's very harsh judgment of you, don't incorporate it. Understand it probably says more about them than it says about you. And that's the case probably 9 times out of 10, to be honest, from what I've seen, certainly in workplaces. When somebody criticises someone, 9 times out of 10 it says far more about the critic than it does the person. As long as you understand 1 time out of 10 it might be valid and you really need to take it on, then I think that's a good way of protecting yourself against unfair judgments. So, an astrology on numerology energy around your inner guardian. Waxing gibbous moon. So that's about clarifying your goals and pushing past blocks. Yeah, like use this to help clarify what you want. Not to castigate yourself, but to clarify what you want. And the aha moment around what your inner guardian brings you. Number 47, so that's 11, which is 2. So 11 is a power number, and 2, which is sort of like choice. I think also the imagery of this is pretty clear here, that like what choices you make, whether you go into blaming yourself or whether you have the getting of wisdom from this and then you move forward, those choices have a domino effect. That's why you need to understand the impact of judgment. That's why you need to be looking at what your new, kind of lessons are, or the new sort of intentions and so forth that you want to bring forward and so forth. But waxing gibbous is also about integrating lessons. So there's a sense of like integrate those lessons. Don't judge yourself too hard, because whatever you decide to do at this point escalates. And this is also talking about then focus on the greater good, because again, each step and each decision that you make has a domino effect towards the greater good. So this is very much about understanding that whatever this was such a shock to the system, precisely because you are very talented or very, very honourable or whatever it might be, and something wrong happened. But don't blame yourself too much, and don't judge yourself too much. Think about what it's teaching you and then take the next steps, because each action you do takes you towards what you need. So to finish off, I'm going to just draw a card from the Lantern Oracle for some light to bring you out into the full light of day, pile 3. Women supporting women. Together we can transcend our individual limitations. Okay, so this may be saying that there are friends, and this is really, let's take the gender out of it. Let's just say people supporting people. There are good people around. Again, whatever this was not fair, but there are good people around, and don't feel you have to do it all alone. And then pay it forward, really. when people support you. So look for that sort of nourishment as well. Don't feel you have to do it alone. If you withdraw completely into yourself, it's much easier to go into this negative energy, and your inner guardian has to work so much harder. But there is support for you as well. You know, as I say, this is an unusual thing in your life. It's not the norm. Don't make it about you. Make it about learning. I hope that resonates for you. I hope it was helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. But otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.